All right, everybody, let's kick it off. So welcome to the August Power Talk. Today we have the pleasure of having Sarah Thomas sort of run a panel of folks who have lots of information about our transformation tank. And some of you who are maybe familiar with Good People know that we launched our transformation tank at our May retreat, and we're going to have it again in the fall at the fall retreat in Uray from September 26th to the 29th this fall. And Kane Marshall is on with me. Kane, he's head of Good People. And I don't want to take up too much time. I just want to, first I want a couple of housekeeping things. If people could just keep their microphones on mute. And we're going to have Q&A at the end and in the middle. If you have questions that you need to ask, please put it in the chat. Please put it in the chat. And feel free to say hi to everybody in the chat now as people start to join as well. We'd like to hear what some of you I'm not familiar with and would love to know where you're from, etc. So I'm going to introduce Sarah Thomas, who is CEO of Mezcal and some other enterprises. She does a lot of work with startups and early startups. And I'm going to let you take it away, Sarah. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Meg. So nice to see so many of you familiar faces, some who have come to our event before and some who are new to the mix, but maybe have joined the Power Talks because a lot of these talks are just great about the industry and learning new things. So thanks to Kane for always hosting amazing content through Good People and Meg for pulling community together. It's awesome to see you guys today. If anyone came to our last talk like this, prior to our last retreat, I was in the stairwell trying to find a quiet space at HIMSS at the conference that's the largest tech conference in the country, and HIMSS usually gathers 30,000 plus geeks like myself who are involved in technology and innovation around the world. I tend to cross over specifically into the age tech world. And so I've been, many of you know my background anyway, but I've been on the operator side and on the age tech side for 20 years really at that intersection of what are we looking at for innovation and technology enabled services and improving outcomes and improving quality of life and our experience as we age globally and our perception of how we age. And so, Kane and I have kind of partnered along the way to launch this transformation tank because I've done a lot of accelerators where I've run, long-term boot camps for age tech startups at every phase. And it's super fun to be able to advise and guide them on product market fit and go-to-market strategy and growth and bring the perspective from the operator side on everything from the UI and UX that you need on that human-centered design to actually have something that people want, whether that's for a resident or for your staff or for just building your brand. What are we looking at for solutions that kind of enhance how we're doing our business? And I also have run a lot of pitch events, and the pitch events often are just one directional on stage. These startups come up and it's the Shark Tank style, and they get to say what they do in a short amount of time. And they're really nervous because they're telling about their product and their team and their what they're building. And they're just pitching out to La La Land and hoping the message is going to resonate. And what we're really trying to do at Transformation Tank and through Good People is have the opportunity for early stage startups. They have to have raised less than $3 million in order to participate in this particular pitch event. And the way that Good People have created and curated the event, if you haven't been, I highly suggest you join us in September. It's just amazing to watch a non-traditional setting somewhere beautiful in Colorado, enveloped by mountains, in nature, not just your traditional conference room, and to be able to say, let's experience life together. Let's go for a hike. Let's have meaningful conversation about the things that are important to us. And then let's also have facilitated discussion around topics that are of interest to us in the industry. And the business opportunities come with these great relationships that you build. But what we wanted to add was this element of bringing startups where they normally don't have exposure. So they get on a big stage at Leading Age or ACA or they or some large industry event, and their message maybe gets lost. Someone gets some attention because they win the prize. But by bringing startups into this event, we're able to really have immediate expertise in the room, facilitated right back at them for how did the message land? What do you think about my product? What else do I need in order for you to take my call? What do you want to invest in? How do you want to be, an early adopter if you would pilot something? And it's not just about the sale, and it's not just about winning prize money or winning some opportunity, or even just pitching for investment, which sometimes the startups are so accustomed to doing. But it's taking a different setting in a really beautiful environment, in a highly kind of natural setting and organic conversation, and allowing the people who are in the room contribute back to the startups. So that's what the intent was of the first one. I think it worked pretty well. I have two guests today that I'm going to ask a few questions of so that you could see kind of both perspectives. Sasha will tell us a bit about her organization, and she's the startup who came, one of the early startups to apply and to then join our pitch. And as she approached me, what am I going to get out of this? Because I'm in the middle of working so hard. I'm a founder, I'm an early stage startup, and there's risk in pulling myself off of the line of the work that I'm doing, and taking time for events like this. And I need to pick and choose which events I go to. So Sarah, what value am I going to get? And of course, she heard the story that I just told you, which was the intent anyway, to get her in front of good people who can give her feedback. And I just want to make sure, that we're hearing directly from startups like Sasha. And if you're a part of a startup and might qualify, or someone, or you work with someone, or you've had startups pitch to you, but they're not quite ready for either your investment or your pilot or adoption, maybe they're early stage, invite them to apply. But I want to give time to Sasha. Sasha, what was your experience like? And I've talked a little bit with you about your follow-up, but tell me, did you get anything out of it in the immediate, and then what was the follow-up like for you afterwards?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thanks for asking. Thank you, Kane and Sarah and everyone for inviting me. It's quite a pleasure, and the opportunities continue to show up and come at full circle. And so, imagine getting the opportunity to have your startup in front of the top leaders in the industry, and not only be able to then sit down in a very small, intimate setting, like you were saying, and gather their feedback, hear their questions, hear the conversation amongst them, and then directed to you. So it wasn't just like a one-on-one, this is one point of view, it was many people. And then really what was so wonderful for me, that was so comforting, was then to sit and have coffee with them, or play croquet with them, potentially in the future, ride an ATV with them, because you really get comfortable. They have kids, you have kids, pets, whatever it is, you just start to build a friendship, honestly, which was not what I expected I would gain from this opportunity. So not only have I had incredible feedback that I couldn't have gotten in a Zoom meeting, in a one-on-one, on a big stage, but I got more than one feedback, and I got friendship. Furthermore, the business opportunity has, it's been unbelievable. Just with some of the operators there. As a matter of fact, this morning, I've probably done another 10 pitches to operators. I've gained service agreements. I have exponentially grown my customer base because of the opportunities. And I have many things over the next 6 months that have come to light because of the people that I met at the event. It was fun. It was fun to get their feedback. I went into it with I was scared. I was nervous. I was intimately with other people. And then the really cool thing for me was being able to have other startups and hear them in their short amount of time, and be able to, I don't want to say commiserate, but they were afraid, I was afraid, I felt less alone. The more vulnerable you are, the less alone you feel. And we were all in this boat together, and we all had the same amount of time, and we got very different feedback. And to me, so not only did I make friends on the operator owner side, but I also made friends with these startups. And, what other things have you done? What's worked? What hasn't? where to spend your time, where not, valuable resources. We are all startups, so we are on a budget. We are trying to do a lot with less resources, and finding friends that are also doing that, creating friends that are also doing that, was incredibly helpful. The Good People team has been so supportive, particularly even today. I mean, I'm friends with Meg, I'm friends with Kane, I'm friends with Sarah. I did not know they knew I existed before, and now I can call them and ask a simple question and move on, and I don't have to do this alone, and that feels really nice.
Sorry. Thank you, Sasha. And, I'll give feedback that you probably won't share, but I think it's valuable. It does take time and energy and a commitment on your side to step out of the day-to-day of what you're doing, which is so important. And especially any startup that is in the middle of fundraising, they don't want to stop what they're doing because they have a short window and a short runway, and they want to be able to get in front of as many potential investors as possible. And one thing, Sasha came to me and she's like, "You said there'd be investors here. I don't see investors here." And I think that one thing to share with the group is that a lot of us are actually angel investors. We just don't lead with that title when we're talking about what we're doing. We also are operators, but have, corporate initiatives for corporate investment and CVC and funds that we have access to capital, but we, again, don't lead with that. Ziegler is an incredible sponsor and advocate for Good People. And, we have those folks in the room who many of us know from the investment banking side, but also we know Linkage, is further on their size, their Series A and above for their investment, but they like to see things early. And so someone like Sasha, not to pick on you, we're friends, so I can do this, but may not know the value of actually getting in front of those types of folks early. And yeah, you're not going to get a check the day of, but being in their pipeline and being aware and increasing awareness for all of their LPs, and I know them and I can vouch for them for years to come, is incredibly valuable to a startup, and they don't even quite know right away who they're in front of. So I love the fact that Good People creates just such an organic experience that you don't realize whose title is what or what they're capable of doing. You're not there to ask for favors. You're there to just be authentic and learn from each other, and then the business kind of falls from there. Would you say that's accurate, Sasha? Now afterwards.
Absolutely. Yeah, I did think, pitch, this transformation, this pitch opportunity, to me, that was an opportunity to pitch for investors. So I was surprised in that moment. And you're right, that's exactly how I sounded when I was like, but wait. One thing I would like to share, which was part of the dialogue that, Sarah, you had prompted this dialogue between the operators and the vendors, and you asked some questions that we all have that we're afraid to ask, which was the most important question to the operators. You said, how do these vendors get in front of you? How do they talk to you? How do you want them to reach out to you? Because, we do the things, we do the calls, we do the emails, the drip campaigns, all those things. And most of the time we don't get a response. And so when you asked that, I was on the edge of my seat, like, they're going to tell us this is the big secret. And one very large operator, very wonderful operator that I've come to light to be friends with today, said, don't do this, don't do this, do this. And I don't want to say those secrets because you really got to show up. You got to be there to know what they were. And so I thought, is that what I'm supposed to do? And so at the end of croquet, I went up to her, having not been on her team and spent too much time with her. And I said, I will be remiss if I don't take this opportunity, but you said this is how to engage with you. So I'm just going to ask you in person. And I did. I asked for the opportunity to be introduced to the right people that would say yes to me, that could make that decision at the community level. And she said, I will do it right now. And I'm not kidding you, not 5 seconds later, I had an email in my inbox that copied all the right people on our team. And those were the first deals that I closed. So thank you for asking that question that we all wanted to know the answer to.
Yeah, it's awesome because, we have maybe our stage answer. Some people have their stage answer, their prepared answer on how to answer some of those questions. But the beauty of being in a room of a small group of people who just are just real, we've just all woken up and have breakfast and we're going to go out to the beach to make a sandcastle, or we're going to go on ATVs. Like, we're just talking real to each other in whatever way we could present truth. And in this particular case, it was, don't email me. I know exactly the conversation that you're talking about, because this woman publicly said, do you know how many emails I get a day? It's going to get lost. That's not how to approach me. But it was authentic and it was real. And we do drown in emails, and, maybe that isn't the best approach for that organization or that person. And it's nice to be able to just share those stories and learn from that. So thanks, Sasha.
Yeah.
So we also have Nick on the phone, and that kind of tees up the conversation nicely, I think. We always have good people supported by HumanGood, and I think that they've been involved in every single one of the events in some way or another. But I think it's important to have that operator perspective on the call today. For those who might never have been to a retreat, I'd love to hear, Nick, your perspective of, first, maybe we start with, what kind of tech categories are you looking for? If there are any startups on the call that are thinking, I don't know if I fit in this group or not, I don't know if these operators are actually looking for the type of service or solution that I have. Do you have some categories maybe you want to start off with, what kind of things you're looking for in general, and then we can get into why good people. But just, I'm interested in your business thesis and what kind of categories of innovation you look at.
Sure. Well, if anybody could help me figure out how to cryogenically freeze our board of directors, that would be a good start. But all kidding aside, we are, I've only been in this role for 5 months, so apologies if the scope of what I am looking at here is not as vectored as I think what some of the companies that are involved in this may want. But we do have a investment fund through HumanGood, and we in fact are in the process of trying to start a second one. And I think the thesis of where we like to invest in startups is there a way that we can support the company with a cash infusion while at the same time supporting them by figuring out how to better serve the senior community? And we have a innovation center at 2 of our communities in Los Angeles that we use as a big pilot center. And so what we like to do is invest in companies where we can also pilot and use their technology at our innovation center in a way where we can provide feedback and help them better understand the landscape around with which this stuff will be used in. Because, as I'm sure you are all aware, not every startup, when they're finding a solution when they're finding a need that they want to bring a solution to, senior living is not exactly the first place that everybody looks. And so one of the things we actually like to do is find companies who have an awesome piece of technology, but are, for one reason or another, either a lot of venture capitalism out there doesn't understand this industry very well and is kind of afraid of investing in things that they don't fully understand. And that's one of the reasons why we're able to help some of these companies kind of re-vector themselves into senior living in a way that they hadn't previously thought of. So I would say that any advice that I have is, one of the things that we do internally at HumanGood is when we talk to a startup, we're trying to evaluate whether or not there's an internal need that this solution presents itself to. We come up with a very concise one-pager internally that we can use to share and kind of get a snapshot of what this company is trying to solve. And one of the things that I found with a lot of startups is that they don't have a very good one-pager in place already. And if they did, it would really help, especially internally for us, to get what's the value add here and what need specifically are you trying to solve for. And I would say that one of the biggest things you'll find when you're talking to not only operators like us, but potential investors, is that it's hard as a founder to distill exactly what you're trying to do with your company in a couple sentences. It's the hardest thing in the world to do. But if you can figure that out in a way that conveys exactly what you're trying to do and how you're trying to do it, I think you'll find that as an incredibly powerful tool to have in your back pocket. And I've seen firsthand that be the complete difference between 2 companies one has that down. And even if like the technology or what they're trying to do isn't as sophisticated or as potentially helpful, the fact that they really understand how to do that I've seen companies like that get the nod over companies who may have a better solution, but just didn't have their ducks in order in terms of a presentation that's very short and concise. So I'm very excited to be involved in this, though. I appreciate the offer.
Yeah, and you guys have certainly been early adopters and investors both of time and energy as well as capital for startups along the way. And now I'm super excited to work closer with you now that you're in your role, and looking forward to more collaboration. Maybe you can speak a little bit to that piece of one value I think with good people in this retreat is that you get to see very early stage and give advice in a kind of a contained environment. But I'm curious, in your organization, do you already engage with very early stage, or do you pilot? Do you have focus groups? Or is it mostly like, hey, if you don't come to me with a one pager, you're probably not mature enough to work with us yet because you've got to be a little more sophisticated? Or where's your sweet spot for that adoption or contribution on the early stage?
Absolutely. So, and I should have mentioned this right off the bat, and I apologize for that. The credo, if you will, of our investment strategy for our fund is that we only invest in early stage with companies that we are able to pilot. So we don't invest purely for financial purposes. We only invest in companies where we can simultaneously pilot and try and, once we figure out if there's a benefit there for human good, and if it's early enough. I think currently we only do pre-fund A, so basically seed stage investments. And if it's something that we can pilot internally, what that allows us to do is prove the strategic initiative for human good, while at the same time supporting with, like I said before, with some cash, which is really, cash is still king. And so that's what really every startup needs, right? But what we can try and then offer on the side is all of our years of experience and expertise in the senior living space of what works and what doesn't. And frankly, what makes one of these solutions really sing isn't exactly what the need is or what the solution is. It's whether or not you can implement it and scale it. And that's really the hardest part, because I don't know how many people on this call have worked directly with seniors before, but they are very afraid of cameras. They're very afraid of sensors, especially if they're in their homes, right? And so being thoughtful about how we go about this, and especially how we pilot this, I've seen, even before my role at HumanGood, can make or break whether or not one of these things goes forward. And so we only, for HumanGood at least, we only invest in companies that we can also co-pilot their technology in a way that if it's something that's really, really, it hits the sweet spot, we're in a position to be able to throw additional money in on later runs down the line. So that's kind of how currently our funding mechanism works.
That's awesome. Yeah, and everybody's got a little bit of a different thesis, but it's nice for us to be able to share that both on calls like this, and then also in retreats like the Good People Retreat. I know that you weren't able to make the last retreat when we launched the transformation tank, so you haven't seen one yet, but I know just from our conversations in the last couple of weeks, you're pretty excited about this format. Can you tell us what you're most excited about this type of engagement at a retreat, and the event itself?
Absolutely. Listen, having been on both sides of the fence, before I took this role, I was in and around startups for 8 years. And so I've been in those shoes, and I know that feeling quite well. And frankly, Zoom calls are great. And if your PowerPoint or Google Docs game is on point, fantastic. Like, that goes a long way, but nothing beats being in the same room with somebody and being able to actually tell them your story and like what the background is. I know I was stressing earlier, like the one pager, and I think that's incredibly important. Everybody should have that. But at the same time, if you use that to kind of get you in, what really sells it is like, what about you is going to make the solution work over somebody else? And it's hard to convey that over a Zoom call, and it's easier to do that in a retreat type setting where you're breaking bread together and you're sharing an experience, right? And as you do that, and I recently got some some time to spend with Kane, and it's remarkable and profound the type of things that you start to share with each other that really can take these relationships to the next level. And it's hard to do that over a screen. It's much easier to do that in a real life setting, where everybody wants to be there, not one where you're being forced to go because somebody told you, right? So I think that's a big selling point.
Yeah, I think that's true. And, there's really nothing like it to be able to have that type of setting for conversation. I think we're in the people business, we're in whatever side you're on, whether you're a tech startup or bringing a new service to the market, or you're an operator, we're all working to improve lives of older adults in some way. And that shared commonality in a shared experience like that is really pretty powerful. So I'm excited for this next one. Kane, did you want to say something? I wasn't sure.
Oh, no, I just want to say that's not Kane Marshall. That's Nick Lindberg. Thank you, Nick. Thank you. So, yeah, and speaking of the Array Retreat, we've got some special things planned coming up at the end of September 26th through the 29th. We will be riding on razors. We will be hanging off of cliffs if you're up for it. Plenty of fun, all the same stuff. Happy to share any marketing videos if anybody hasn't seen it. But thank you, everybody, for joining. I just want to jump in real quick. Thank you, Sarah. Good job.
Yeah, thanks, Kane. It's we're about, if you haven't already kicked off this conference season yet, most of us leave Labor Day and don't go back to our families until Thanksgiving. And so you have to pick and choose how you're spending your time with all these senior living conferences. But this one's a special one because it brings people together in a different way. And like Nick said, just breaking bread in a different type of setting, I think allows you to just have different levels of conversation. And I want to give Meg a chance to talk a little bit more about the criteria for applying to the transformation tank itself. But Sasha or Nick, do you have anything else that you want to share, just either about your experience in general or thoughts for the group?
I would like to say one other thing, and I would love to hang off a cliff, whether it's National Croquet Club or a razor or hanging off a cliff. Those are all such thoughtful, intentional activities, because they're all things that you can't do with the phone in your hand. You can't take a Zoom call. You're present, and I think that's really what makes this really unique. So thank you for doing that.
Awesome. Sasha, before we move on, do you want to tell the group what your company is? Because it's always a good opportunity to share what startups are up to. So do you want to just say what you do?
Oh gosh, I was thinking as Nick was talking, I was like, how's my one pager and how's my pitch? And okay, so here we go.
Soft pitch. You don't have to have a hard pitch, just a soft pitch.
My company, founder and creator of Utopia Experiences, and we are senior living's favorite live game show company. We host in person, we give it to the teams, but really what makes us so unique is our live game show hosts. And what we're hosting is not bingo, nothing against bingo, but we take nostalgic game shows that all of our residents and seniors know and love, and we create them custom from sounds, colors, contrast, fonts, words, to make it an experience that they remember from a child. They don't need to be told the rules, and we connect them with their communities, their staff, their families, their friends, and they come together to cognitively connect and engage in a way that they have not done before. And we're doing something very unique and special. And we like to say seeing is believing, but playing is experiencing. And we are creating experiences, intergenerational experiences, 540 games last month, and we are so proud.
Nice job, Sasha. I know you've ramped up a lot, and we had fun playing even just for a few moments during your pitch. So, so thanks for sharing what you do. We always like to see something new and exciting. Nick, did you have any other last minute thoughts before we go to Q&A from the group at all?
Just that I'm thankful to be included on this. This is the type of, there's so many things that we're trying to solve for internally in HumanGood, and the landscape of startups and solutions is ever changing. And so stuff like this is indispensable, because otherwise, frankly, and I know, Sarah, you and I talked about this, it's just difficult to figure out what's out there. And, part of that is companies and startups agreeing to sign up for stuff like this. And it's just, I want everybody here to know that from where I sit, it's incredibly helpful to have this type of interaction versus just frankly jumping on Google and doing a search for something that, is anyone doing this, right? It's just, that's a lot of times what you end up doing. So this type of thing is incredibly valuable. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Nick. And I know we spoke about our roles in the past. I led global innovation for Genesis Healthcare and Genesis Rehab Services for years. And, the whole point of having that role and positioning me at Aging 2.0, for many of you know me through Aging 2.0, it was to decrease the noise of the vendors. No offense, Sasha, but we get pitches every day, all day, of like all the solutions that they think we need. And they insult us by telling us, hey, do you know how many people fall in your buildings? And don't you care about the falls? Yes, of course we care about the falls, but it's noisy and people are pitching all the time, and there's landscape analysis that is very hard. And often we're just Googling, or we start off by just Googling best solution in, and hoping that the right answer comes, but we don't necessarily know what's out there. And some of us have made some bad bets in the past in what we've invested in or tried and learned the hard way. And being able to help shape early stage startups and the direction they need to go, so it's something that we actually need and actually want, and that people will resonate and benefit from the solution as they're developing it, is awesome. So to get them into us, not just pitching, it's fun to hear the pitch in this setting, but to also say, hey, if you did this, we would adopt this, or if you maybe shift this a little bit, it's better for us, and be able to get that feedback that's mutually beneficial for everyone, and kind of move the needle on the industry. So I know Nick and I geek out on the early stage stuff, and looking forward to seeing the new startups in the next transformation tank. Megan, before we take questions, do you want to talk a little about the criteria of the transformation tank this time itself, just in case there's any startups interested in joining?
Yeah, sure. I put the link to the application form in the chat. And so our criteria really are pretty simple. First is you must have at least a minimum viable product in the market and at least one paying customer or a pilot initiative. And then the other thing you mentioned, we actually have a 5 million, not having raised more than 5 million. And also you must be able to be available to pitch on site during the retreat. And we haven't identified which day yet, but it'll be either the 27th or 28th of September in Ouray, Colorado. So
perfect. And the links are in the chat, so anybody who wants to look into the event or the pitch itself are there. Does anybody have any questions? I'll kick it to the group now, just in general, on any topic that you need. We have Kane here, we have Meg here, and I'm happy to answer anything if I can, but anybody have any questions?
I see Mike Gerard there. Good friend of Team Good People. Mike, do you?
We do have someone who raised their hand. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Christian, I think I met you, Christian. Please.
Yeah, I actually met strangely a lot of people on this call at a bunch of conferences, but yeah, my name is Christian, co-founder of VIS, founded an ADL software company in my college dorm room, and got our first investor in March, and yeah, now we're on our way with early adopters. But I have more of a question on just the pitch itself, or just being there. Like, how is this structured? Like, I know it's way different than any type of conference from what it sounds like, but I just want to know, like, what's the day-to-day like, out in Colorado? It sounds like it's a lot more activity-based, which I'm always happy about. So I just want to ask, like, how it is during these retreats, just on a day-to-day basis.
Kane, do you want to go through your typical agenda in Ouray? I could talk about the pitch itself, but you probably want to talk about the agenda.
Yeah, so the typical agenda for Ouray is we arrive like 4 p.m. on the first afternoon. At 4 p.m. we do a rooftop happy hour, meet and greet, get to know each other, do a quick 2-minute about who we are and who we work with, but it's more about getting to know each other, where we're from, and then the next day, the following 2 days, I should say, are pretty much the same type of day. We spend about half the day with breakfast type, brunch type atmosphere, and we have 2 roundtables. We have a roundtable discussion, one of which will be the transformation tank. We also have a leadership partner that we work with, Denise Boudreau with Drive. She comes and does some leadership topics and roundtable discussions. So basically 2 days of roundtable discussions halfway through the day, and then the afternoons are the bucket list team building activities. In Ouray, Colorado, we go up in the mountains and ride through the creeks and rivers and waterfalls and razors, which are side by side razors. And then the second day we do what's called a via ferrata, and we climb on the cliffs and the side of the mountains, or we go and do something a little bit lighter and do hiking and get out in the nature and bond. And so there is a little bit of vulnerability in the retreats, and there's a little bit of fear of heights and a little bit of all of that going on. But I believe that helps us all connect and get to know each other better. So that kind of a little bit of a rundown on what we do at the Good People Retreats and how we bond.
Sounds good. So it sounds like I'm bringing both dress shoes and hiking shoes if I make the cut. But just one follow-up question with the shark.
Yeah, you could probably leave the dress shoes at home, Krishan.
Yeah, no dress shoes. Pretty
No
much casual.
dress shoes, even better. just the Allbirds and the hiking boots. And then one follow-on question with the pitch itself. Do you have the criteria of what the pitch is exactly? Is it a 1 minute, a 3 minute, 5 minute? Is it 10-minute Q&A, 30-minute Q&A? I've been through it all with the pitch comp, so I was just wondering if you had details.
So I think Meg put the link in there for the criteria, and it talks a bit about it, but we also have it's consolidated and brief pitch, making sure that you cover everything from, you know, what traction you have so far, your team, your business model, your product, you know, the kind of roadmap that you have, as well as your kind of fundraising needs or your ask, your kind of, if it's commercialization or if it's fundraising. So, but it should be pitchy and pithy, like 4 to 5 minutes. I think, Meg, correct me, is 5 the cap?
I think you made 5 the cap.
4. Yeah.
Last time, yeah.
Yeah, so that's tough if you've not done pitches before. But it's back to Nick's point. If you can't come up with that one pager, you're not quite ready yet. So you should be able to like tell it in a kind of specific way and be a little concise. But the beauty of what we then foster next is a pretty solid Q&A with the crowd, making sure you're getting feedback right away from the group as well, asking questions like what Sasha heard of, how do you knock this door down, and how do you get in front of the right decision makers, and is it easier to go regional first or go for the big national guy? Is it, you know, there lots of kind of industry knowledge in the room, and so they're specific to your startup, and then also group collaboration with the facilitation afterwards, so that you're getting the most value out of the group conversation as well.
Yeah, sounds good. Pretty excited to be applying, but yeah, I've done a bunch of pitch competitions before, so I was just, yeah, like I said, just wondering what the details are on the actual pitch.
Yeah, we can follow up with you as well. I think we connected on LinkedIn, if I'm not mistaken. So we're happy to give you the rundown of the criteria for judging too.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Anybody else?
You want to put Mike on the hot seat again, Kane?
I did. I actually wanted. I always like Mike's questions, or I wanted to hear what his latest thing he's investing in or what he's got going on. He's a good friend and great supporter of Team Good People. Nice to see you, Mike. Please jump in there. Give us some good news.
Yeah, likewise. This is really fun, and certainly the opportunity to pitch is always fun for everybody. I think the forum is a lot different than other types of pitches. If you take a step back and you just think about what Good People is all about, it's about us helping each other and being good, you know, long-term relationship folks for each other's interests, whatever they may be, and truly getting terrific, good people together who care about the industry and care about outcomes. And so the pitch is one fun little part of it, but attending a Good People event is and can be much more impactful than just the pitch part, right? I mean, if you're going to come and you're there for the whole, you know, couple of days deal, I mean, it's an immersive experience where you can relax because you know you're around handpicked, really thoughtful people who want to help other people. And so regardless of whether you get picked or you do a pitch or not, you're going to have an awesome experience, you know, meeting some really top quality people in the industry that through this invite only opportunity, So I think that's priceless. And I know I've enjoyed all my interactions, and I get a kick out of helping those folks that become part of Good People, and even those who don't, that we cross paths with, right? And I think one of the hallmarks of the people that are involved in Good People is we all put out a ton of goodwill, right? Sarah does. I mean, everybody that sticks with it is in it for the right reasons. So they're not thinking about, what's this going to do to help me. It's what can I do to help others, and then that great karma comes back to help you ultimately. So.
Yeah, I fully agree. We got some nice time together in the past, Mike. I'm looking forward to future retreats.
Likewise.
Thank you, Mike. Anybody? Mr. Zuloff, Dale, I see you. We've met before via email. I think, are you up in the mountains somewhere here nearby?
I am just over the mountains from you in Telluride.
Yeah, I thought so. And then I saw it in your window there. Beautiful view. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
That's a window? I thought that was a screen. That's really cool.
There's actually a blackout screen on it. It's just that bright out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's what we all aspire to through screensavers. Well, good. Well, I think the links for the event, the links for the pitch are in here. If you've attended this, I think Meg follows up nicely with everybody with opportunities to engage. We're all available if you have additional questions, and I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing some of you in September.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you very much. This is great.
Thanks.
Good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Great. Thanks. Bye. Bye, Lisa.
Thank you, everybody.